Thank you for joining us for this episode. Today, we're joined by Amy Gallant Sullivan, and we're going to be speaking up cosmetics and cleaning up your act on the OI Show. Well, thanks again for joining us for this episode. Today, we are joined by Amy Gallant Sullivan. This is the second Sullivan that we've had on the OI Show, and the better of the two, of course. Yes. And Amy is a notorious person in the realm of ocular surface disease and helping with TFOS. And Amy, I'm so grateful that you're on the show. Can you tell us a little bit more about you for those who aren't aware of your behind the scenes effort in the ocular surface world?
First of all, Dr. Kading, thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to speak with you, especially after you've already spoken to my brother, Ben Sullivan of Tear Lab. So I actually started my journey in the ocular surface disease space in 2002 when we launched the Tear Film and Ocular Surface Society, better known as TFOS. And that brainchild actually came from my father, Dr. David Sullivan, who spent 38 years of his life dedicated to his laboratory at Harvard Medical School and Scapin's Eye Research Institute. So back in 2002, he dragged me into the eye world and said, all right, let's do this. So back 20 years ago is really when I jumped into the surface disease space, but also that's when I uncovered the unmet need for eye-safe cosmetics. So I've been dealing with the ocular surface disease space for 20 years, but I've also spent a good chunk of that time researching cosmetics and the impact on our ocular surface and what's good, what isn't, and what we can do about it.
And really, you've been in the ocular surface world far longer than that. Ben shared that your dad would oftentimes take
in
a
high
pipette
school
home and would test all of your tears and everything.
When he was 2, I think he was 2 years old. So we've been involved in this space our entire lives. And I really try to do everything in my power to stay away from it. I was like, no, I'm going to go into business. I'll go into politics. I'll do anything. My whole family's in medicine. I can't. When I was 4, my mother said, never become a nurse. She was an intensive care nurse, and never marry a doctor. So I'm like, okay. So I ran for my life. But then in high school, my father actually asked me if I would translate it was 150-year-old research in France on basically dry eye disease. So I started in the dry eye space when I was in high school, translating French medical literature for him. So, and I said, oh, no, I'm not going to do it. And then,
Here we are.
I used to take pipettes home, we'd go into the laboratory, we'd get to see all of his experiments. And it was always a topic of conversation around the dinner table. And because my mother is an intensive care nurse as well, her perspective on dry disease and hormones and women's health and all that was always integrated in the conversation, even when my brother and I really did not want to hear anything about it. You know, what does a 5-year-old want to know about sex hormones in the eye?
Mm-hmm.
So it's been our entire lives. That is dinner conversation until today. Now it's just a little bit spicier because it's like, oh wait, we could do this and help more people. Let's try.
And dinner time conversations at holidays must be amazing.
They are animated.
So, Amy, I am a pretty outspoken person on, I think we have far too much regulation from government from the most part, with the exception of certain instances that I can come up with. 1938, the Cosmetic Act by the FDA, and we have a whopping 11 banned substances for the cosmetic industry. Europe has 13,000, if I'm correct, and correct me in these 1,300. Canada has 1,000. So, you know, we're way behind in this arena. And share with us a little bit from your experience of how the cosmetic industry and our use of cosmetics are damaging the ocular surface, and how you've seen this as you've researched this over the years. Like, what is really happening here? Many of us know.
Question,
right?
That's a really loaded question, because first of all,
it's a broad question too.
It's a very broad question with a lot of different answers and a lot of different angles, and we could have a whole medical school course on it. But stepping back to the regulations, the 11 chemicals banned. Okay, 11 chemicals banned in the US, more than 1,300 in the EU. Why? what is going on there. So right then and there, that's eye-opening. And mind you, those 11 chemicals that are banned, these have not been run under eye safety, for example. These are chemicals that nobody would ever put into a bottle for cosmetics because nobody would even think about it before. But it's just when you think about the chemicals that are used, you say, but why those 11 chemicals and why is Europe so different? And what's interesting about it is when we first started formulating the products for Eyes of the Story, so I have a collaboration with laboratories in the US, Canada, and Italy. So, and they were tasked with making cosmetics that obviously would be approved for sale overseas, which is always quite the challenge for an American company, because again, since there are so few chemicals banned in the US, Europe pretty much doesn't blink at brands that are made in the US. So it's daunting. So one of the first things that I did was I went to laboratories and I said, okay, look, here's the situation. Okay, yes, I'm a US based company, but we have to look at the regulations for the US. We have to look at the regulations for Europe. So we're not going to use the regulations in the US because they're a little bit too loosey-goosey. We're going to look at the regulations in Europe, but they're still a little bit too loosey-goosey because guess what? None of the cosmetics on the market that I've found have been formulated specifically for sensitive eyes. So we took it to the next level. We tasked the laboratories with, okay, here are the chemicals that are absolutely obligatory to put into products to make cosmetics, whether they be, first of all, clarify cosmetics. They're anything that you rub, pour, sprinkle, or spray, say smear onto your skin. Okay, so they can be what you wash your face with or skin or, moisturize your skin or colors. So it's not just colors. So we're looking at the whole spectrum here of cosmetics. So I said, all right, what chemicals do we need to use to make, say, an eyeliner or a face wash? There are certain ingredients that you absolutely have to use to make something do what it's supposed to do, like stick on your eyelashes or stick on your lids or, not burn your eyeballs out. So I said, okay, let's start with that. What are the things we absolutely have to have? What are the things that are commonly used and what can we avoid? So we started out with black list, gray list, and white list, because again, there are certain ingredients that you absolutely have to make certain types of cosmetics, like pigment. You can't have color of any sort without using some sort of pigment. So even with the research on pigments, it's like, which pigments can you use and which are the least insulting to the tear film and ocular surface? But then you have to look at it, you have to go down to the particle sizes. So even when we were doing the audits in Europe, they asked us for particle sizes. And the US, so what's interesting again, and it's all part of the bigger conversation, but for cosmetics, you can pretty much just go online and Google, I want a private label cosmetics and do my own thing. So you can get a new label, stick it on a bottle, and you have a new brand. But you can't make the formulations. So we worked with the laboratories to actually make the formulations to make them ocular surface safe. So again, our objective was to make the world's first cosmetics specifically formulated and clinically proven to be safe for sensitive eyes, dry eyes, and contact lens users. So what makes that interesting as well is with the cosmetics, you have to prove, generally speaking, for the US, there are some pretty basic tests that you need to pass. So you're not going to cause problems, like the hypoallergenic test, which in the scheme of things doesn't mean that much. You have to say, okay, if the product is in a bottle, it's not going to eat through the bottle. And if you do a patch test, you're not going to have a rash, things like that. There are very, very, very basic tests that you have to pass. That's it. Then you can have a cosmetic. Yay! For Europe, it's more detailed. So like I said, it goes down to the particle size in Europe.
Yeah.
So
what some people may not be aware of Eyes Are the Story, and what I'm hearing you say is you saw this as a major issue. You said, well, hey, let's develop something, but not just a product that would be approved in Europe. Let's take what is available to us in Europe, and then let's categorize these things and attempt to make the safest and the best for the ocular surface. And that's where Eyes of the Story kind of came about. You probably were researching all of that before you even decided to make a company, I
Oh,
presume.
absolutely. I mean, I spent years just trying to find a company that made products that didn't include certain ingredients, because the more I delved into it, the more I realized that, oh my goodness, why hasn't anyone done this before? And it was really eye-opening from my side, because again, with TFOS, I was learning about ocular surface disease. And if you walk back to TFOS Dues, the original, the TFOS Dry Eye Workshop, there was a paragraph in there on benzalkonium chloride, that little nasty preservative called BAC. When I saw that back in 2007, I said, hold on a second, BAC? What? Okay, it's in glaucoma meds, but why? So I asked, what is it for? And so I asked my father, of course, because, Mr. Dry Eye guy, I said, Dad, what is this? And he said, oh, it's used in glaucoma medication. I said, but it's also in cosmetics. He looked at me and he said, what? So that was one of the first ingredients that I was really looking at, because I was very curious to see that it was being used in ophthalmic pharmaceuticals, but also cosmetics. It wasn't until many years later that we realized the concentration differences. And for example, the concentration that's approved in Europe, I believe it is thousands of times greater than the concentration that's say found in glaucoma meds, and we already know is pretty offensive to the ocular surface. So it's like, oh my goodness, no, what? But why is there not communication between the cosmetics companies and pharmaceutical companies? If they're using the same ingredients, there should be a conversation about that, because guess what? Those products out there are impacting our eye health, and we should know about it.
Mm-hmm. So, Amy, in the eye care space today, both eye care and both optometry and ophthalmology, we're inundated with all the stuff we have to talk about with our patients, right? From their spectacles to their contact lenses to their glaucoma to their optic nerve to their retina to, all of this. In your years of talking with eye care providers, what could be a really basic way of approaching this cosmetic conversation with patients? For instance, we did this conversation, Selena McGee, Mila Brujic, and I, at the AOA, where it was called two beasts and a beauty, where we talked about cosmetics. And Mila and I were just in the dark about so many of the things in the cosmetic world, let alone the safety side. Like, we didn't even know what products women are using, or people are using. And we've kind of come to this perspective of the reason why many of us don't have this conversation is because we don't know anything about it, right? We're so in the dark. What would you say would be that opening conversation, that starter for us with our patients in this world? What would you do if you were in the exam room with patients?
Well, what's really interesting about it as well is because with Eyes of the Story, again, it wasn't something that I came up, oh, I want to have a beauty company. No, I was thinking of it from the ocular surface disease perspective and how it could integrate into ocular surface disease patients' lifestyles, right? So I said, all right, in order to create something credible, it needs to be really endorsed by the medical community with whom I work with TFOS. My brother has Tear Lab. Again, my father had a laboratory at Harvard for 38 years, so I can't put slop in a bottle. So how am I going to go to an eye care professional anywhere in the world and say, you have to prescribe this to your patients? Like, how, first of all, whoever thought that skincare, cosmetics could be prescribed to patients? That's not an easy task. So the way I start with it is because nobody has time in the clinic. Nobody has enough time to see all their patients for the amount of time they'd like to spend with their patients, and patients always have more questions. So to add more questions to that very minimal amount of time you have, it's like, yeah. So we start with, okay, we all have to clean up our act, right? Again, men typically use about 6 cosmetic products a day, women 12. So that means most people will wash their face with something. Most people will moisturize their skin with something. That's even before you go anywhere near color. So what we strongly recommend to the eye care professionals is, look, everybody needs to wash their face. Everybody needs to moisturize their skin. Everybody needs to keep their lids clean, right? So let's start with a clean canvas. So clean up your act. So what we recommend to the eye care professionals is, why don't you integrate the skincare, like the hygiene aspect, the hygiene and anti-aging aspect into the patient protocols? Because if you know that what your patients are using to clean their lids, wash their face, and moisturize their skin with, you've already started to clean up their story. Because what we've seen is a lot of the products that patients use at home, say in between treatments, can literally compromise, sometimes sabotage a diagnosis, treatment, or management of the disease. So we say, let's first clean up your act. So it isn't even starting a conversation. It's like, here's the protocol. This is what I wrote on your RX. This is what you're going to use. So sometimes it's that easy. It's like, we're going to start you with a little something new. So there are actually a lot of ECPs in the US that have literally just started putting it into their protocol. It's like, all right, contact lenses, dry eye, MGD, myopia, you name it, eyeglasses, sunglasses, just you come into my clinic, you are a candidate because you have eyes, and everybody has sensitive eyes. So it isn't even though you have to start a big conversation, but you have them in your chair. You have them in front of the slit lamp. You have some time to say, hey, by the way. And we also don't want everyone to think they have to be a biochemist to try to figure out what ingredients patients are using at home and all the products that they use, because that's not our specialty. But we do know that there are some things that we should be avoiding. And with the TFOS lifestyle report, it definitely helps as well with the cosmetics report, because there are some ingredients mentioned that we strongly recommend against. And that's why even something as simple as skincare can really help start the conversation about graduating to color, because what you wash your face with, what you moisturize your skin with, can actually also impact your eye health. It's not just about color.
Amy, so what, you don't have to list all 6 or all 12, but what are things that men are using? You mentioned cleaning and moisturizing. What are some of the things that men commonly use? And then what are the things on top of that that are commonly
Absolutely.
used in female?
So bro beauty or male grooming is actually an exploding market. So it's just at several different generations. So this is not a trend, but it is growing. So, and it's a multi-billion-dollar market as well. So I think everyone needs to be aware about the fact that men are starting to use more than just water on their face and on their skin. And I've even seen campaigns in parts of the world where men are using eyelash growth serum. So it goes that far. But so men will use, say, lid wipes. Okay, what kind of lid wipes are they using? Whether it be to keep their blepharitis at bay, or just because they want to refresh their lids because they're spending way too much time in front of the computer screen. They're using lid wipes. That's one thing that they're definitely using. They're washing their face with products now, which is very important, because a lot of men, I mean, a lot of my male friends wash their face with shampoo. Well, they used to, not now, but they used to wash their face with shampoo because, hey, it's a soap. I'm in my shower. It's a 2-for-1. It bubbles, it cleans me. Why not? You don't want to use shampoo. We all know that baby shampoo isn't recommended for the lids anymore. So why should you be washing your face with it? But men don't always know. They're like, well, it's a bar of soap, so it does its trick, right? What's made for the skin, what's good for the skin isn't necessarily good for the eyes. So face wash is also a really big thing. Men are also starting to be really aware of anti-aging products. So a lot of them will also use skin creams and moisturizers and serums as well. Men are also delving into the fillers, into the injections, into Botox. They do these things. And it's really not uncommon. I know a lot of men that use Botox. So the thing is, it may also be very challenging for an eye care practitioner, an eye care professional, to ask their male patients, so what cosmetics are you using? Because again, cosmetics, most people think would just be color on your lids. So you could even say colored contact lenses. You know, how many men do you know use colored contact lenses for vanity? And then they're using eye creams with retinol in them, and they sleep with their colored contacts and their retinol eye cream, and they wash their face with tea tree oil. Oops, another subject. But you know, so there are so many different areas, and it's tricky because how do you start the conversation, especially with men, or how does a male ECP approach the conversation with their female patients? So
well, I like this cleaning up your act conversation to get things started. And then, eyeliner and mascara, those are two areas in the eye care world that we see every day, or even eyelash extensions. So speak to us on some of the things that we commonly see that we would like to avoid, and what are some suggestions we might be able to make around eyeliner, lash extensions, and mascara.
Well, one thing I always like to say, because pretty much everybody at every age understands it, at least people that are using cosmetics, I say, once again, clean up your act. There are bugs having sex on your lashes. And that's why I created these wipes, because they kind of look like condoms. I said, hey, let's practice eye safe beauty. Yeah. People are disgusting. Okay. And it's not just men who don't wash their face. Let's talk about women. Women will keep a tube of mascara 6 months, a year, or longer. I know people that will spit in a tube or lick a wand to get it to last a little bit longer. They'll put tap water in it. Just gross. It's just like mascara should be replaced monthly. Just like no questions asked. Just replace it monthly. It's like, so should your toothbrush, but it's like, please, mascara every month. Eyeliner, I like to replace that every month too. Women have a horrible tendency of putting eyeliner inside on the waterline. It's an absolute no-go. So that's another reason why we actually formulated the liquid eyeliner, because if you apply it on the inside on the waterline, it's going to run down your face. Haha, tricked you. So this eyeliner should be replaced regularly as well. And again, a lot of women will lick their eyeliner to make it smudge better, or they'll share it, or they, not a good idea.
And for people, so a lot of people are listening and they're not seeing what you're holding up right now. Amy's holding up an eyeliner. I think that's what you're holding up right there. And it's in a really small bottle, and bottle, whatever it's called. And there's a reason for that, right? You don't want to have a huge one, which people are going to use for a long time.
So I'm going to hold it. I was holding up the eyeliner pen. So that's pen, but I'll hold up one of the mini mascara.
Right.
So this is a mini, and that was intentional because most mascara are the size of a pen, like the eyeliner pen. And those big pens are what women typically keep for 6 months, 12 months or longer.
Right.
But we intentionally made 3 mini mascara, which is the exact same amount as a usual tube of mascara, but we broke it into 3 because women typically use mascara 8 times per week, which means they use it basically every day. And so one of these mini tubes would be, say, a week supply of mascara. 1 box is good for a month. So what we say is, if you're a regular user of mascara, you can use 1 box a month. If you don't use it very often, use 1 tube a month. Why? Because once you open that mascara and you put that wand, that brush, and on the lashes, I like to say bugs because I simplify it, but say the bacteria from your lids and your lashes get on that wand. You put that brush back into the tube, you have bugs from day 1 in the tube. Then the second day, you have more bugs being introduced to your lids, lashes, et cetera, et cetera. Once again, bugs are having sex on your lashes. So we say, even if you don't use your mascara very often, once you have opened that tube and used it once, toss it after a month. And with the minis, it's a lot easier because you don't feel so badly about wasting products. But people don't really think about the hygienic aspect of keeping the products for an extended period of time. So we just made it easy. And also we've heard that the mini wand is great for people who have visual impairment because it's easier to actually feel the lashes on the brush with a shorter wand, really long one. So it actually has more, it helps more people. But that's why we did the minis. But they're great. Use one for a week, toss it. Use one for a month, toss it. Done. So it helps. It makes it easier. And then also, it's great for a subscription basis too, because a lot of people get used to the idea. It's like, oh, that was easy. All right, I'll buy another one. Oh, that was great. And you never have to question about when you have to change it. It's sort of like your Brita water filter. You're going to change the filter every month. But why haven't you thought about that with eye makeup before?
Right.
It's like, how often do you change your underwear? Please. Or people that sleep in eye contact, in the contact lenses. There was an ophthalmologist who came to my poster at Arvo a couple of years ago, and she said, so this is also important for male ECPs to understand, because they think, oh my God, I'm a guy, I don't understand cosmetics. Again, no, it's everyone. All ECPs have to understand it. This female ophthalmologist came up to me and she said, okay, I'm going to basically confess my sins here. I'm female. Yeah, I'm an ophthalmologist. Okay, now I'm embarrassed about what I'm about to tell you. She said, hi, I'm a female ophthalmologist. I wear contact lenses and I wear cosmetics and I sleep in my contacts and my cosmetics and I'm going to be shot now. And I just looked at her and I said, thank you. So it basically goes to show that this is an education that everybody needs to appreciate, because it isn't just one field or another, but people really have not thought about their eyes and how their lifestyle choices, their beauty, hygiene, and anti-aging routines can impact their eye health. And it's come to a point where it's like, we have to discuss it.
Yeah. Amy, you mentioned the TFOS lifestyle cosmetic report. Are there other resources that you would suggest people look into for patient education or learning more about this? I mean, we're starting to get more of them, but anything you particularly like?
This is a difficult question because, again, there's a reason why I created Eyes of the Story. There's a reason why TFOS did the report, the cosmetics report. And full disclosure, I was not part of the cosmetics report. So I just full disclosure, but it's very challenging because there are so many sources out there right now, but a lot of them are great for a lot of things, but they're not eye focused. So a lot of those apps out there are specifically made for dermatology and skincare, for example, but they're not focused on eye care. So for example, there's a Mayo Clinic app, the skincare, Skin Safe. Sorry, there are so many. Skin Safe. And so Dr. Joanne Shen, an ophthalmologist who's part of the Mayo Clinic, said, okay, she admits it, that app was made with the dermatology team, and they really need to look into the fact that these products that are on their site are not focused on eye safety. And it goes back to the quote of what's made for your skin and is good for your skin may not necessarily be safe for your eyes. So it's really tricky because the apps out there presently, there isn't an app out there that is based on eye safety or sensitive eyes. So a lot of them may be grading products because it's based on ingredients that, well, maybe somebody doesn't want it on their skin or what have you, but they're not looking at the eyes. And there really isn't anything out there yet.
Yeah. Well, I think, one resource I would recommend people is to check out your website, learn a little bit more. That's eyesarthestory.com. And this has been really informational. I think we could probably talk for another hour and a half, 2 hours about this, but
there's a lot to the story, Dr. Kading. There's a lot to the story. And please, I would love for you to share more as well, because we take the feedback that we get from the ECPs and the patients, and we'll write blog posts, we'll do webinars, whatever you want. If you want a webinar, we're happy to bring in experts from around the world and discuss the different areas. But we have a lot of information that we're trying to share, but it needs to be shared because the education is necessary. Again, cosmetics can impact a diagnosis, treatment, or management of ocular surface disease. So everyone, all of your colleagues, and all of us mere humans need to know that what we are using on and around our eyes needs to be eye safe.
Yeah. We're working on diagnosis and we're working on treatment, but if we're not cleaning up our act, right, in the beginning, it just continues to make it worse. Thank you for sharing with us and being part of this. It was very generous of you.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of the OI Show. Make sure to like and subscribe. Please do us a favor and share this episode with a friend and a colleague. We can help make their patient experience even better. And we'll have you join us again next time on the OI Show.